Good afternoon. My name is Michael Sullivan. I am a solution consultant at BSP. Prior to BSP, I spent 10 years at NetSuite Direct, working with wholesale distribution manufacturing companies. And prior to that, I spent, almost another 20 years at a couple other software companies in Europe and in North America. Our topic today is a general overview of user roles, but we're picking out a few things that are specific to our office supply clients here. I'm going to start with a general dashboard overview, then go into a purchasing dashboard, a shipping, a financial, and then a customer service dashboard as well. And during that, I'll try to cherry pick a few things that are specific to the office supplies industry. So for the people that have not seen NetSuite, this is what NetSuite considers to be a dashboard. The dashboard is different depending on what user you are. You can always see that at the top right. So Kathy Cadigan, administrator, is who I am impersonating now. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a trip into the purchasing dashboard, the sales dashboard, the warehouse operations, the controller. Each one of those roles is typically a different person in your company. Now, I'm going to be impersonating them all, but think of it from a setup perspective. You have an employee, you assign them a role. That's how security is driven. That's how their dashboard is driven. If you need more detailed security, then you split the roles. The good part, there's 15 of them preset. You don't have to do anything. All the content's there, and then you can just add and remove content. How would you add and remove content? You would go to your personalized button and add content, and that's just by clicking on something. If you want to remove content, you'll go up to the little portlet here, you'd hit the remove button. I'm not going to do that now. Everything is drag and drop. So if you don't like something there, you put it there. And if you want to change your layout, so I currently have this one, but let's say you want 3 columns or just 1 column, you do that. What's important to note here is NetSuite's focused on small to medium sized companies. So we do not want the need of having, sophisticated administrators required to modify a dashboard. So everything here, when I click on and compress something, when I move something or drag something, when I set a dashboard, it's all meant to be very simple. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of the elements here, the basic ones, and then we'll focus on a few things that are more specific to office supplies. So everyone's got financial needs, right? So if we look at an income key performance indicator, this is actually driven through, I'm going to click on this here by hitting the control key and hitting my mouse. I open up a new tab. I could also open a new window, or I could drag this into a new window. So there's not a lot of data here. I'm going to expand this in a moment, but just from a drill down perspective, this is easier. I'm going to just click on the revenue number. Now, if I would have done that with the control key, you can notice it's going into a different tab. But what it did is it drilled down from a summary level into a detail, showing me the invoice numbers. Now I'm in the invoice, and I can see this was a bubble envelope. Notice how buttons are active here to accept payments, do a credit, make a copy, email, right? All kinds of stuff directly here. If I have the rights, I can actually jump into the general ledger. I can see my trade receivables, my revenue, and I can even jump into the ledger itself of that account. Now, because I'm an administrator, I was able to do that. Most people obviously shouldn't. So now I'm in the register, and I could actually click on this number and drill upwards versus downwards. So what's key here is we started this whole process from the main dashboard here, right? And all I did was click on that number. Now, just to finish off what these reports can do, the date ranges here. Now, I have a preference on that says that financial reports should be run by financial period, not by date. You just set that up here. So everybody can change their font, can change the colors, their general environment for printing, for reporting, up to you. This drop down is essential if you have more than one company, because you can filter by the company. This is if you want to slice and dice by class or department or location, right? Or by company again, or by accounting period, right? So if I did class here, you can see there's a lot of classes. Not all of them make sense because it's just demo data, but you can see that all the classes are now broken out on top. If I go to, let's say, accounting period here, you'll see that it breaks it out by date range. And if I hit more, you can see there's more filters. I can even filter an income statement by a customer, right? And it comes down with a drop down of all my clients here. Every one of these reports can be exported to Excel here. So there's a little Excel export. There's a print button. There's an email button, and there's a schedule button. The schedule button allows us to run this report on a timer. So maybe at 6 o'clock every night, you want to send this report to Bob, your boss, as a PDF. And you do that in the scheduling setup, right? You can see here what time. And then you can tell it which days. If you want to stop this, maybe just want to run this to end of the year, and then who's going to get it. And then you can attach a nice little message with it. And then you can pick the format that you would like to send. Let's maybe PDF. And once I hit the save button, it's just telling me that I didn't put a message in. But now you've scheduled this report to go, and you would see that down here under scheduled searches or scheduled reports, depending which one. So what's key here is all of that is user defined. I don't need a programmer to do that. All these drill downs here are just standard NetSuite functionality. Now, the top 4 key performance indicators are all standard. The bottom 4 here are things that I built. And this takes me to the second reporting tool, and it's called Saved Searches. Saved Searches are used to create key performance indicators, reminders. We're going to come to scorecards later. But when I drill into this, and again, I hit the control key just so I can open a new tab. Slightly different look and feel, but notice now I got my images, I got my items, I got my client, my order. I can also view this just by hitting the view button. And now I can see, here's my sales order, the products that I sold. So again, drill down capabilities. What does that really mean though? That means I can create my own key performance indicators. All I'm doing is using a field, an attribute on the item to group by. These could be the same attributes that you get from Ascendant or SP Richards, could be ones that you've done yourself. So we can see that we have various reminders here, one being, purchase orders are late, so coming in from a supplier late. We can see wholesaler items on back order. Let's jump into that. Easy way to do that, hit the control key and the mouse, and it brings it into a new tab. If you wanted to move that to another screen, right, you just drag that thing over. What we can see here is this is the date that the orders were placed from the client. This is the date when the product should have shipped. And you can see by my date, it's 1 day late. So these are all line items that did not go out yesterday. So on back order. You can see this one is highlighted. the person working on this has made a note so that we can track where we're going to get that potential product from. An easy way to do that is to just, again, all of these are interactive, but you just hit the edit view. And again, this is all real time, right? We're going to see this directly on our reminders. It's going to pop out. It could also generate an email. But we can go into the order here. We can see that going back to this, right? This was our Duracell product here that we couldn't get. And again, various fields that you can align wherever you want to. What I've done is I have a little field here for follow-up notes. So maybe you want to date this. Completely up to you, of course, called Mike at company BBB to source a new option, right? Really what we're just doing is putting a note in for the next person looking, potentially placing a manual PO for this product, potentially switching out the supplier, or maybe even just shipping it from another location. So once I make those notes, right, all the other information is the same as typical sales order, right? We're going to see all the information that came in from Logic Block, and I'm just going to save this, right? So when I save this particular record, what's happening over here is you can follow kind of that now it's being highlighted. We can see the notes that just occurred, right? And I'm just using conditional highlighting to be able to see which ones I've worked on, which ones I've been able to do some follow-ups, do some calls, that kind of stuff. All right, so that's kind of that. I'm going to close this down. Again, when we go to the home screen, right, you can see the count of 4 here. I have this thing that's sitting at my top. The other thing that you might do from here is you might look at your shortcuts, right? You might go to your sort by screen. All right, so think of this being all of your sales orders that have come in for the day, right, through Logic Block. They're waiting to be transmitted. We can see by the conditional highlighting here, the green means that we've met our minimum quantity of 5. The yellow means that we're getting really close because we can see we have 4. If we expand this little button, we can see that's made up of 2 separate orders accumulating to 4. Right, and again, I can filter this by just clicking on these little boxes that will filter the screens here for us. All right, and now we can just see the ones that are closed. And if I were to select stuff here, remember this, there's another presentation that goes into this more depth, but when we select something here and exclude, that would end up going into the carton buy program, right, where we're accumulating requirements and sending them out. Now also what to remember here, right, these line items sitting here, they're all being transmitted based off of your setup in your transmission scheduler. So BSP has built all of this out for SB Richards, Ascendant. So you're going to be able to create your schedules, group items together, assign your account numbers. It's going to go through a transmission queue. It's going to send stuff out. We're going to get a ping back from Ascendant and SB Richards. That information will come back into the sales order lines, confirming availability of inventory. If it's not available, right, then it didn't go out. And again, we're back to our reminders here, right? Things that didn't ship that day. All right, so that kind of covers the purchasing part. Let's move on to the next topic. The other reporting elements like a scorecard here, these are standard NetSuite products. You pick and choose which ones are specific to your user. So you can see there's customer, employee, expenses, financials, inventory, procurement, production, sales. vendor performance. All of these are deployed to different types of roles. But the main part here is you can create your own, and you create your own with the same searches that I used to create this key performance indicator, but also the same tool that creates these reminders. As we scroll down here, we can see a pivot table, and these pivot tables are things that you can create yourself through a workbook, and these workbooks belong to the analytics component of NetSuite. These, again, come pre-configured. That means you don't have to develop these yourself. And you can see there are a whole bunch of them. If you hit the new button, it allows you to create a table, a pivot table, or a chart. But going back to here, let's say if you wanted to add the sales rep, you would just take this field and you would drop it into the spot where you want them. So let's pretend right there. And it's just saying, yep, you added something when I refresh this. So it's a drag and drop mechanism. We can see now Bert here. And then we can collapse these, right? Just like a pivot table. Everything here is drilled down again. So as I click on these numbers, I can drill down into these records. So again, as just a summary, they are pre-configured pivot tables, charts, tables, data sets that you have access to create your own output around any portion of NetSuite. So purchasing, sales, financials, warehousing, anything that you want. Lastly, as I close this here, I'll just show this little chart, which is actually a report. You can see this is sales by order, orders and item type. And the way I created this, I went to here, I went to sales orders by item. And then what I did is I added that same attribute into here. In this case, in container. And again, remember, I can just click on these numbers. And as I keep clicking, it just drills down. So take away, all of these reports are drill down. And they can all be customized by you. So that means you can modify those yourself. You can make them yourself. And they become your own. Last couple of things I'm going to show, I'm just going to go down to my shortcuts here. So customer profitability results as an example. And I'm going to filter by some data that I know is going to be somewhat usable. So this is, again, another safe search. But let's say you're analyzing your profitability, right? You're looking at your invoices. You're looking at your customers. You're looking at what you sold it for. You're looking at your costs. You're looking at your gross profit dollars, your gross profit percentages. But maybe you want to look at that with your loaded costs, right? So maybe you're grabbing this item here, right? This box. And we're looking at our average cost, our purchase price, our last purchase price, our transfer price, and our loaded cost. So NetSuite is simultaneously keeping track of all of these costs. And in this case, I'm looking at my profitability with loaded costs and without loaded costs, right? So again, load cost is basically your, like a landed cost that you've included. In most cases, what we've seen for the commission reporting for your sales reps. And again, this is just a column inside of a safe search that I can add and remove. I can add formulas myself in there. So again, loaded costs included anywhere you want to. The last thing I'll kind of end up here is the global search, and then we'll move into another role. But here you could, do everything from, type, ascendant, and you would, find the vendor. If you're finding, let's say, let's grab something like, maybe looking at ink toner. Here's your items. And if I want black right, there's one item. The concept here is the more information you type in, the more NetSuite narrows stuff down. So I found this by looking at item type 1 field, item type 2 field, using those to drill down. Most fields are global search fields. Any field that you add, so if you were to add like an item field, your own, you could make that a global search field. Right, so that's important. So those fields can be used for global search. Or if I was just going to go to an item record here and look at a list of items, you can see here at the above, I have filters, and I can edit this view, add more filters, and you can see I have my columns here, right? That are showing me all of my information, like last purchase price, my loaded cost, what's available, and so on. All right, so that's enough from the main administrator dashboard. Let's take a quick look into a sales rep. So we'll go to another role, and you'll see that the name at the top now changes. Bert Brockes, right? He's our sales rep. Now, from a security perspective, a lot less access to financial data, but Bert's reminders here are, sales related, customers to call, appointments, calls to complete. And maybe Bert is also responsible for some AR stuff. Maybe Bert has to call clients whose balance is higher than a certain amount. So orange, in this case, indicates that it is somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000. Red indicates, it's greater than that. Bert could go here and directly email. It takes a second because it's loading a template potentially, but it's going to bring in the main address. Bert could also select other users from customers or contacts here. Bert could also customize his message when emailing out, and that could be done through a template. These are templates that you can create yourself. You can see this got auto-filled. Bert could add attachments here. And if Bert sends this email will get attached. It's just saying that I left something out. But what has happened is that that email will get attached to the customer record. If they reply, that reply will get attached to the customer record, and it will also get CC'd to your Outlook or your Gmail account at the same time. So again, we're trying to focus Bert's work on what he is responsible for. Maybe Bert also focuses on leads and prospects, right? Getting new ones. And maybe Bert wants to make a note directly here, right? Right, and making some notes here while he's calling. So what I'm doing is I'm actually editing the customer record, doing that directly in this grid. And guess what? This is a search, our favorite tools. So as you can tell, the searches get used for virtually everything. I can deploy them to my dashboard. I can have color coding here. I can directly modify information through a search. You can see anywhere that little pencil is indicated means I can modify the data directly. And maybe Bert is interested in his key performance indicators, right? Maybe he wants to see his commissions. So what we can do is deploy searches that are specific to Bert that show him that he has $290 queued up for this month. And we've deployed that directly to his dashboard. So not only can he see his quotes and his sales, we can also see his calculated commission directly there. Also, maybe Bert is using a scorecard to evaluate how well he's doing, right? looking at sales by sales rep, sales orders, new leads, all that stuff. So again, remember that all of these can be compressed, right? So if you don't want so much space, right, you can bring this down to a manageable size. And again, all of this is completely configurable. So let's look at a purchasing person to switch it up. And again, every time I switch over, it really is a different user. In this case, it's Michelle over here. Now what I'll point out is like the reminders are very focused on purchasing, purchaser to approve, purchase orders late, purchase orders partially received, right? So maybe in this case, Michelle's very concerned about late POs, right? This was the due date, that was yesterday, so they're not here on time. That means the customer is not getting their products on time. Maybe I've partially received POs, that means I'm going to be out of stock, right? These are all, again, searches. And as simple as these searches are, like what I'm looking at is, notice the status here, purchase orders partially received pending bill. Notice I can't overwrite this. I have to do a save as because Michelle doesn't have the right to change this. All right, so that's the whole idea here, is that they have access to this information in real time. They can also see items above reorder point, below reorder point, items to order. So if you're stocking products, right, you instantly get your queue of everything that needs to be ordered by location, potentially by supplier, right? So if you want to, maybe you're stocking some products with Ascendant, right? You can see here, if you wanted to create a PO, you'll just highlight this. You can overwrite the quantity directly here, and you can submit that for processing directly here. So that's simple, again, all directly from the dashboard. All of the information's right there. We're also tracking vendor performance. Do you want to see how well a vendor is performing? Returns, average days late, right? All of that information is real time. You can see the purchase orders in progress. You can see the 3 ones in red. Those are all late. And this is the same search that is sitting right here as a reminder. And this same search was used to create this search, only that we're looking at everything that's late in this case. Right, so what you're seeing is that the tool set is the same over and over. But what you want to do is you want to look at exclusions. Things are not going the way you think it's going to go. You can use all of these searches to also create alerts. So I have sample email alerts here. So as an example, right, I'm triggering a search called late purchase orders. And I'm sending it to Kathy. And I'm saying, these are the late purchase orders that you need to be worked on. Here's the PO number. Here's the date of the PO. Here's the due date. Here's the vendor. And if I hit view record, notice it takes me right back into NetSuite. So for Kathy, if she's already signed in, it'll take her right to that PO. If she's not, she signs in. And it takes her directly to the record, right? So these are just examples of things that have been sales orders shipping this week, right? So maybe it's an email. So these are alerts driven through a search, but executed through an email. These could be sent to a client. They could be sent to a supplier, right? That says, hi, Mr. Supplier, we have this many purchase orders that are currently late. Could you please look those up? Right, so these alerts can be used for internal or external purposes. All right, so let's switch it up to looking at the warehouse people. The warehouse operations right now, they're interested in sales orders that need to be shipped. Right, and maybe they want to break those down by their route code. this case, they're all in North Carolina. All right, but I can filter by the route code. All right. I also have my reminders, right? Now I'm looking at sales orders partially delivered. I'm back to those back orders. I can see sales orders by location that I shipped from. I have my sales orders that I need to pick. So these are not your wrap and label. So this is the stuff that's sitting in stock, stuff that they have to go pick. All right, so we have the quantity, the allocated quantity, the ship date. In this case, we're looking at what's partially delivered. And we can always track that by status, right? The sales order is going to track the status of the order. So if it's partially delivered, fully delivered, ready to invoice, those are all statuses that we have available. Right, and then they're also tracking purchase orders in progress because it's the warehouse person, they're waiting for stuff to come in. And then we can see here from key performance indicators, we have, we're tracking how many lines we're picking per hour, what we fulfilled today, and so on. All right. Just got 2 more to go, and then I think that will cover everything. But let's look at a financial person, a controller. So think of this as could be like an AP, AR person. Those are also 2 roles, but a controller, it kind of sits above that. But you'll see that this dashboard has 3 columns, so that's easy to set up. Let's just define over here again. And on the left, we have now reminders, credit cards to approve, sales orders to approve, bills to approve, sales orders to invoice, as an example. Right now, we can track our bank balances here directly. We have KPI meters where we can see how well we're performing on sales, on expenses. Right, and just from a navigation perspective, so you can see, you can navigate through the menu. Most people will navigate through shortcuts, but you can see all of our AR stuff. We can generate a statement directly here. We can look at our AP information. NetSuite has a full payroll system and an HR system. We can look at our banking. So ACH, EFT are directly built into NetSuite. We can reconcile credit card and bank statements, right? If you're working, deduction management is more for people that are dealing with the Walmarts, where you need to have all of those deductions that they apply to you automatically taken off. You can see we have direct AP and AR. So if I click that, takes me into a secondary dashboard, actually, that's focused on accounts receivable. If I click on this, so these are all secondary dashboards linked to the button that I'm pressing on. There's a full fixed asset module as part of NetSuite as well. Right. And if I hit the dashboard button, that takes me back to the front. If I hit the star, it takes me to my favorites, and it takes me to my recent records from a navigation perspective. So again, more scorecards, and I'll just bring you into bank reconciliation. So this is, again, another search built into the dashboard. And NetSuite has the ability to bring data in from your bank directly. What you do is you set up your clients or your banks. You basically create that plugin to the bank, and it brings the data in automatically. You can see there's an update imported data. Typically, what you're doing is you're scheduling it like in, half day or full days. Increments. You can run reconciliation rules, so it can match by various fields. You can reconcile the statement at the end. We have to be matched. We have matched records. And then you can manually exclude records as well. But if you were, let's say, trying to match something, maybe you're filtering here, you just want to filter all the payments. And then maybe you're saying, oh, this one matches this. All right. That's kind of the concept, is you're matching things together, then reconciling those and going from there. And you can see I have a lot of stuff to be matched. But again, that's all built in. Part of the implementation is to work with you, of course, and get your bank information. But that's a great part of having an ERP system that really was initially purely financial, that then expanded into a full suite, is there's a lot of good financial capabilities right there. Last but not least is customer service. And sometimes the most important part is we want to track how we're doing from a customer support perspective. NetSuite has the concept of a case. So a case is like a ticket. Think of, you bought something from Amazon, it didn't get delivered, you got a ticket number or a case number. You can submit a case in NetSuite through email. So you have a dedicated email address. If they send it to you, that will create a case. And it does that by looking up the email it was sent from. You can also have an online form. These typically get embedded into the website. And then somebody goes to that form and says, you know, broken product. All right, and then they would type in, you know, their information here. And we'd say what's a problem, and maybe I'm doing bad broken product. All right, once they fill that out, they submit the form. That will send the case into NetSuite. It'll update this list. And then these cases, once you take a look at one here, right, they have a case number. They're assigned to a client. They're assigned to an internal resource. They have a status. They have a priority. You can see an automated email went in through this here. The system sent this email out as it came in. You can track the read receipts here directly. But what we did was we filled in the customer's name. We brought in Melody's information here directly. So again, we're tracking cases. They can be escalated. You can have activities, right? So you can see there's a task, follow up with client. You can attach files. We can track time. So if we want to see how much time we're spending on customer service, we can do that. And then, as before, we have key performance indicators, you know, case related. We have a scorecard, right? Open cases, cases closed. We have analytics, right? Where we're checking by reason what cases there are. All right. And then we have access to a whole bunch of reports here as well. So case management, just like sales and CRM, are built into the application. They're all part of what you would get as a suite here. And maybe as last thing here in the general global search, I'll just show you that not only can you search for NetSuite information, but if we're bringing data in from, let's say, LogicBlock or another e-commerce system, I can also search by that. So it brought me into the sales order, but how did it bring that in? When I go to the BSP tab, I can see here's my LogicBlock number. So think of information coming in from a third-party system as LogicBlock as an example, right? It's calculating the route code, it's confirming the transmission status, but we're able to search by any field that we brought in automatically, right? That's important, including if I scroll over here to the right, You can see my loaded costs are being brought in. You can see that this is stock or wrap and label, how the transmission is going to occur, what facility it's being shipped from, and other transmission information about that item. I can follow the whole history just by hitting the history button, where NetSuite tracks every change, every update to the record at any time. So hopefully this gave you a bit of an idea about the general concept of user roles, dashboards, all that fun stuff.